Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Coast to Coast College Football Pregame Show. I'm your host, still Ohio State's daddy, Bill Shawcross. To my top left, still my brother from another mother, Mr. Cottrell Simpson. How are you, sir?
I can't complain, man. Finally got all that nonsense out the way from yesterday. Didn't get to see my team play, so I'm ready to be locked back in. So I got something to look forward to.
All right, bottom right-hand corner, man. I don't think that could be any happier than anybody else. Mr. Oregon Duck, Mr. I Black, Mr. West Coast, Mr. Undefeated, Mr. Big Ten champion, and Mr. Number 1 seed in the college football playoff, Alex Elmore. How are you, sir?
Man, 13-0, just 13 is an unlucky number, but in this situation, man, it's the best number that could be possible. Undefeated, Big Ten champions, first year in the Big Ten. We beat all the blue bloods of the Big Ten conference handedly. Last night, I had zero doubt that we were going to win, and the game was close. The final score was close, but Oregon really had hold of that game the entire time. And if I feel good to know that we're Big Ten champions, and today I'm excited.
At all,
bro.
At all.
What are you talking about? That was okay. You know what? We're not here for debate at the moment. I'm just here to gloat. And with me, Bill, go ahead and introduce the other gentleman with us. He's just as excited as I am.
The special guest host today, in the bottom left-hand corner, is the guy we talked about yesterday, our number 1 fan, been our number 1 supporter since day one, since we started this last year. Another West Coast fan, unfortunately, another Oregon Duck fan. But that being said, our birthday guy, our main man, Justin Louder, is going to join us for our special rankings reveal show today. How are you, sir? And honestly, great. Welcome to the show. Thanks for finally doing this.
I know we've kind of talked about it a couple times, and being able to make it finally happen is awesome. Again, I'm kind of a sucker for independent podcasts and just kind of being on the ground level with y'all since this happened, and being able to be here is great. But I'm echoing pretty much every sentiment that Alex already said. I was actually texting Alex yesterday. I'm like, you know what I love about you, Alex? I love your confidence, because I may not be outwardly as confident as Alex is sometimes. But yeah, a great game yesterday. I figured, Ducks would win. And so, same thing. Undefeated, 13-0, feels great.
Listen, honestly, it's been, all joking aside, it's been a dream season for Oregon. A lot of people obviously picked them number 1 in the preseason polls and to win the national championship. And they are, I think for one thing, I think they're special offensively. There was times in that game last night they made Penn State's defense look very ordinary, which it's not. Say the game was in hand the whole time was a little bit of an understatement. But great football game, but we're not going to get into recaps too much. I think we'll touch on stuff as these rankings come out, and that's obviously why we're here. I know we all have ESPN on. I think they're all talking right now. Get ready to release certain things. So this is going to be a live reaction show, and I think I want to get everybody's opinion real quick here. Is I think with Clemson winning last night, I think we all agree Miami is just donezo. They're done. They're gone. And now I think the real debate really becomes, and I will say that I don't think it necessarily should be down to these two teams. I think, again, another team is just getting a pass for no reason. But I think the 12th seed now really comes down to, are you gonna keep SMU in, or are you gonna put Alabama in? I think that's a very easy answer. I think we all have gut feelings that it's probably not going to go the way we all think it's going to go. I still don't know how Indiana is just getting a pass. I just don't. I need to know who they have pictures of. But real quick, after what we saw last night, and what do you think the committee's going to do today?
Man, look, here's what I'm going to say. Obviously, I was watching the Duck game. The Duck game got over a little bit early where I was able to tune into the end of the SMU game. And honestly, the SMU team just showed a lot of heart coming back. They were down big in the first quarter at halftime. They came back, battled back, tied the game with 33 seconds left. Obviously, Clemson was able to get into field goal range, and their kicker was able to nail a 56-yarder, and that's not an easy kick to make for pros or college. And the dude made it probably by like 2 yards to spare, so it was still a close call. So I think SMU showed what they're capable of, showed the type of team they are, showed the type of heart they have. Don't worry about Bill; he's just having a little bit of a party over there. But no, I think SMU deserves to be in. I mean, 11-2 season, going to the ACC championship, really in the championship playoff ranking. So,
Alex, I don't know what happened there, but didn't catch the tail end of what you were saying there. But I'll agree with the same sentiments, though. I mean, SMU, I think, played their way into the playoff last night. At a point when they were down 2 scores in that game, it really felt like that. It felt like that team was going to just kind of falter and almost, I don't want to say mail it in, because obviously you knew that they were going to still fight and they had stuff to play for. But I do think if that result would have stayed that way and, that SMU team lost by, multiple possessions there and, just looked ultimately how they looked there in that first half, then I think we'd be having a different argument today. But the fact that, they came back and it took a 57 yard field goal for, Clemson to ultimately win that football game, then I think that tells you everything you need to know about that SMU team. If we're going to just, keep talking about, if these teams played on neutral field, like who'd be favored and things like that, that's who should get in, then we're having the wrong discussions here. Because if that was the case, then we would have never seen Oklahoma play Alabama this season. We would have never seen Vanderbilt play Alabama this year, because those were games where the spread was, out of the world. Alabama favored by, more than a touchdown in those games. And then we see how those games actually play it out there. So obviously this has been something that we keep talking about on the show here. But if I looked at it earlier today, if SMU had Alabama's schedule, they would still be 9-3 this season. They would have lost to Georgia, they would have lost to Tennessee, and I think they would have lost to South Carolina as well. But they beat Oklahoma, they beat Vanderbilt, and we're in the same boat that we're in right now. So to me, I think SMU has done enough to earn that spot.
Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think with all this, the focus on the committee and, seeing the different types of scenarios kind of as the later into the season, how those start to formulate and you can start to kind of do the what if thing. I think the games played out yesterday and it was almost the nightmare situation for the committee. I mean, with, Clemson winning and pulling that out, it would have been one thing for Clemson just to go in, like you said, Cottrell, and just kind of hammer them, 2 or 3 score game. But the way that the game is, that's why you have to look past the box score. You have to look past the final score, and you have to have context. That's one of the reasons why the switch was made from the BCS to the committee, was because there was context. Should computers pick everything, just based on numbers and analytics? And, I do think SMU certainly should be in to this playoff. And I don't think, that it's really much of a question, but I think we kind of know and we've seen based on the history. I think it was 2 weeks ago when they put those 3 SEC schools at 13, 14, 15. The first thought I had when I saw that was they're setting us up for something in the future. They're setting it up to make that excuse of where they were already ranked. So then if something happened, they could put those SEC schools in there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you on that. You do have to ultimately get those wins when they happen. And I think for SMU, you look at a game where they lost to BYU by 1 possession. They lose to Clemson on a walk-off field goal. And Clemson is going to be a team that's in the playoff. And you look at, BYU is a team that was really in the thick of the playoff hunt ultimately until, this week, essentially. BYU is a team that could have, played for a Big 12 championship if all the cards fell the right way. So, I mean, I really think that, this is an SMU team that has done enough. And I think if you see SMU play like on a neutral field against some of these teams, I know it won't be neutral this week, but you're going to see SMU go and travel to a team like like Texas and play them, or travel to Penn State. Like, you're going to get a chance to see how legit this team was. And I don't care if they ultimately end up losing the football game. I don't even care if it's honestly, I don't even care at this point if it's a blowout. We've seen teams in the past that have earned their right to be in the playoff. Like, people are talking about, we don't want this to be a repeat of the TCU team, a couple years back that got in. Well, people don't want to bring up they won a playoff game. So just because they got stomped by Georgia doesn't mean they didn't deserve to be there, because they actually won a playoff game that year. So I just hope the smaller school doesn't get shafted here, because I think that if you're looking at the exact same resume, if this school had a bigger brand, you're looking at, if this was Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Bama, exact same schedule, we'd not be having a discussion about who deserves to be in today.
I agree with that. And I think the biggest thing is here, I think you're also sending a really bad message to the teams that if you're not in a conference championship game, you're going to penalize the team for going to a conference championship game and losing on a walk-off field goal. That's the message you're sending. And you're sending, and then you're still stating that a 3-loss team that has, two, definite bad losses, 3 possibly, that didn't make anything, is going to jump over a team that has 1 loss to a ranked team, goes to a conference championship game, loses to another ranked team on a walk-off field goal. At that point, like I said, then it gets into, if you're going to send the message that you can lose your spot by losing in a conference championship game, then why go? Because you're devaluing the championship game. Obviously, somebody's got to win it, but at that point, like, if you would have told SMU, like, hey, if you guys go lose, you might be out. If you don't go, you're definitely in, and we won't move you guys, like we're not going to move Alabama, then why go? Take the week of rest. Why go? Let kids get healthy. Like, at the end of the day, it's not that important then. So I think they have to be very careful about what message they send today. And again, I know they want the SEC teams in, but when it just boils down to it this year, Alabama just didn't earn it. You could say that they have 3 good wins all you want, but again, you can't harp on wins and ignore losses. They have 2 terrible losses. And they had that destiny in their own hands. They lost to Vanderbilt. They lost to Oklahoma and looked terrible in both games. That's not SMU's fault. Sorry, it's not. Alabama just straight up didn't get it done this year. Nick Saban's not there anymore. This isn't an excuse where Alabama just gets to walk into the playoff every year. Because if they have one bad game, it's, Nick Saban will turn around. And that's no slight for Kellen DeBoer. But again, Nick Saban's not walking through that door. He's not leading that team out of the tunnel in the college football playoff. And they just can't get an automatic pass. Sorry. There was teams this year that just had great years that nobody expected. We joke about Alex, picking SMU, but I don't think anybody thought SMU was going to walk into the ACC championship undefeated. Nobody had BYU undefeated through 10 weeks. Like, stuff like that happens every year in football. That's why it's great. You can't just pencil these teams in and be like, oh, well, you know what? Well, all right, we can't have a playoff with Alabama. Why? This goes back to the same thing I said yesterday. Like, you had a 6-5 horrible Michigan team playing Ohio State, and it was still the most watched game of the year this year. If Alabama's not in the playoff, please stop giving me the narrative that people are just going to turn their TVs off and not going to watch it. And if you were ever going to do it, this is the year to do it, because it's the first year. Everybody is going to watch these football games in 2 weeks. I promise you. If Alabama's not in it, I promise you all 4 of these games get major ratings next week.
I'm curious about.
Not to mention they're going to be on teams' home fields. It's going to be awesome. Like, there's no way people don't watch these games next week if Alabama's not in it.
To get your guys' opinion on 2 things. One, are we having a different discussion about Alabama as a whole if the losses aren't to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma? If they lose a tight game against Georgia that, we know that they ultimately won, and let's say the 3rd loss was against, at this point, South Carolina. Let's say South Carolina game ended up going the opposite way. They lost by 2 there. So you're talking about 3 one-possession games in the SEC with 3 teams who, in that case, would be either all in the playoff or right there on the brink of the playoff. Are we having, do you guys think that we'd be having a different discussion regarding that?
It would make more sense I'll say that. And yeah, because again, I've been a proponent of losses matter. So yeah, if you lose to Georgia, Texas, and South Carolina, okay, that's different. But like again, like if we were comparing a one-loss Oregon team and a one-loss Notre Dame team, and Oregon's loss was to Ohio State and Notre Dame's was to Northern Illinois, that has to matter. Like if you're going to put these resumes on paper and tell me that you're looking at everything, then how do you tell me that doesn't matter? Then you have to go into a shitty Oklahoma team and getting embarrassed and not scoring a touchdown. That has to matter. Going to Vanderbilt and getting your ass beat, that has to matter. Like you can't just be like, oh well, they beat so and so. All right, well they're cool, and they lost to Little Sisters of the Poor too. Like if you're gonna tell me the whole resume is being looked at and all the data points, which is a thing that Ward Manuel keeps saying, then it has to matter. At the end of the day, all the top 12 teams, they have not one, they have 2 bad losses. They did not make a conference championship game. I don't know how they can be a shoo-in. I just don't. Other than the fact that their name is Alabama and they play in the SEC.
Well, here's what I can let you guys know. The AP poll did come out this morning, and those AP polls obviously aren't official like college football rankings, but they kind of give us an idea of what might happen. And with the AP poll, they have SMU as the first team out, and obviously when I saw it, that very irritating me. But they have Oregon, Georgia at 2, Notre Dame at 3. And obviously, this is not college football playoff rankings or anything, but Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas is at 4, Penn State at 5, Ohio State is at 6. Tennessee is at 7. Boise State is at 8. Indiana is at 9. Arizona State jumped all the way up to 10. Alabama is 11. SMU 12. Clemson 13. But does that kind of give you any indication of where the direction the committee might be going? Do you think this will be like almost like a stepping stone to be like, oh, well, the AP poll also had SMU out, so we are justified to do so? Do you feel like that's going to be an argument that's thrown around, or you think we might be surprised today?
Justin, I'd want to hear from you about both like that, and then also like the whole like situation with Bama, and then I'll kind of give my 2 cents on that because I think I know where I think that in comparison.
To talk about the point we were talking about before with the whole Alabama resume, I side with Bill that there would be more of an argument, I suppose, to argue for Bama. But I think if you're looking objectively at the whole season, there's no question that the SEC, which has largely been the best conference in recent memory, is having a down year. I mean, there's that narrative of there's not been that dominant. Again, we're talking about Alabama specifically because they're on the bubble, but there's not that one dominant team. They've all shown that they have vulnerabilities throughout the season. And I was actually talking about this yesterday when we were kind of talking about scenarios with some people that I was with talking about it. And, we're like, well, we all can see this. We should be able to see this objectively that it's a down year. But then if a non-SEC school or the SEC schools lose, the narrative is going to be, oh, well, the SEC was down this year. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. They're either down and you have to respect that fact and you have to take that into consideration, or you're just going to die on the rock of the SEC is the best conference and it's always going to be the best conference. And then, you hose a team like SMU this year. So, the SEC narrative that's been around, I won't say has been false, but it's less valid this year than it has been in years past. And then to go into what Alex just said about the AP poll, I kind of wish it wouldn't come out because and I've done this too. I'll see the AP poll and then I'll look at the rankings that come out usually on Tuesdays and I'll say, I wonder if this had some sort of bearing on the CFP rankings. It shouldn't. I don't think it should at all. But SMU's out. And again, this is setting us up for what we think is a possibility that most of us don't agree with, but it's kind of building that foundation and building that up for what could possibly happen.
Oh, and it looks like we've got some teams listed. Now you're running the ticker on the bottom, giving us live updates. Oregon, of course, locks up that number 1 seed, as we kind of expected. And as we also alluded to earlier in the day, Georgia locking up the 2 seed. Does that surprise you? I know we were all kind of seeing Oregon and Georgia go on that 1-2 seed after that Texas win, after beating Texas. But I think Oregon definitely deserves the number 1 spot. I mean, 13-0. I don't think you can really argue that. We got Georgia number 2. Boise State's coming in at 3. They just showed a live reaction. Obviously, the Boise State team is absolutely pumped to be the 3 seed, get that first round bye.
And we got number 4.
I know why you're smiling, Cottrell.
Number 4, Arizona State. Look, it's kind of crazy. They were a game away from being the 12 seed, in my opinion, and now they're here at 4. They get the first round bye, and they were a school, man. They were a school that literally didn't even have, they didn't have a spot. Like, they had to win to get into this playoff here, and not only did they win, they secured a first round bye. So, good for that program. Kenny Dillingham and company over there, getting that first round bye. I think that's really cool there.
Dude, Arizona State's going to be a team, man. Like Sam Levitt, he's just a freshman this year. I mean, he looked fantastic in that game last night, and he's got another probably 2 more years at Arizona State before he goes pro. I really hope he doesn't enter the transfer portal for a bigger school. I hope he stays at Arizona State. I think going to the college football playoff is going to bring a lot of positive attention to the Sun Devils, who are, in recent memory, has not had the best of media, especially after the Herm Edwards fiasco, all that stuff just not too long ago. It's nice seeing Arizona State back where they should be.
And then just as we go forward here too, just to let you guys know, I know we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff here. I'm going to just be throwing them up here as they come across the screen here. So we just got the 12 seed ultimately come into play here, and the committee said that that's going to be Clemson. So Clemson's another one, conference champions.
That means SMU's out.
Well, I mean, Clemson had to get that 12 seed.
They could have moved. I think Bill's saying that Clemson would have been 11, SMU would have been 12 because they literally just played. So the head-to-head matchup.
Yeah, I would assume that means their SMU's out.
Well, I mean, even Dabo Swinney was like, SMU needs to be in the playoff. I mean, right after the game, they interviewed him, and he said SMU deserves a spot. They need to be here, and I completely agree with him. Obviously, Dabo Swinney. First matchup is official, ladies and gentlemen. Clemson versus Texas in the first round game. That is going to be that's going to be a great game. A lot of orange, in that one. Where is that? Do we know which bowl game that's going to be for that first round?
That's at Texas.
They're not the first round games are not considered bowl games. They're just considered
right.
games.
The second round games have the actual. That's right.
Yep.
All right, so it's going to be at Texas. Well, just as an early reaction, what's your initial reaction to a Clemson-Texas matchup? I mean, that's
Texas. I guess seeing how far Texas was going to fall was going to be interesting, going from the 2 seed.
They got that coveted 5 spot.
They did. I think a lot of people thought,
I thought it was going to be Notre Dame. I said it yesterday. I thought it was going to be
Notre Dame.
Yeah. Told you. But again, their reasoning for this will be as well. Notre Dame sat this week. It didn't have another data point to move up or move down, but they won't use that for Alabama. So, Texas got wow.
And Penn State grabbing the 6th seed. And that was one that I was kind of curious about. If Ohio State or Penn State, who would be ahead? Obviously, Penn State made the Big Ten championship. Ohio State beat Penn State. I was curious to see the kind of direction they would go. Obviously, they're looking at the Big Ten championship game as a step up over that Ohio State loss.
Okay, but here you go. So now they're giving Penn State credit
for just making it.
Which means if SMU's in, they're going to play Penn State. That's what this game's going to be.
That'd be wild. I'm here for it.
I think
it's kind of crazy that they didn't wait. Oh, they're revealing. Okay, they're going to do 11 last. For sure, they're going to do 11 last.
It's going to be SMU.
Oh, Notre
Dame. Notre Dame's number 7. Where's Ohio State at?
Where
is Ohio State at?
Ohio State's got to be 8.
Yeah. We were thinking we were talking between 5 and 7. I didn't think that they would drop to 8.
Only reason why I knew that, I've been looking at FanDuel. They already have the line posted for Tennessee and Ohio State. So
wow,
it's at 7.5 already. So apparently that was the one lock that everybody knew, but no one knows anything else.
That's crazy.
But why? Okay, but here again, there's going to be the lack of consistency. Why did Ohio State fall?
Because they lost to a 6-5 team.
Correct. Bad loss to Michigan, and they didn't play this week. So now you're 2 for 2. You're 2 for 2 on this.
Yeah.
SMU is going to be at 11 here. I'm telling you guys.
I really hope so.
I hope so.
I hope you're right.
So do I.
Ohio State.
I got an awful feeling in
There
my
we go.
gut, though.
Ohio State number 8. Just like I can't believe that they released the odds of that game
I
already.
hate that we're gonna get Ohio State, Oregon in the second round. I just bomb. That
I
pisses me
love
off.
that we're gonna get Oregon, Tennessee in the second round, and we're gonna smoke Tennessee.
Bro. Coachelle, what's the line on that
Ohio
game?
State's minus 7.5.
See.
Hey, question: what was the line against Michigan? 19 and a
20
half, right? Exactly.
20 and a half.
So
It actually started at 22 and a half. It got bet down.
22 and a half.
That's not a rivalry game, and Tennessee does not play up north. I
Here's
can't
what I'm
wait
gonna
for
say.
them to come up here in 2 weeks.
I'm more impressed with SMU than I am Tennessee this season. If I'm being honest,
I
Like,
agree.
When
Oh my
Tennessee went to
I-
Bro,
when Tennessee went to SEC schedule, they completely changed how they looked as far as like a solid team.
It
What do you
just
think,
clicked,
bro?
it just clicked in my mind here.
What?
We're gonna get Oregon, Ohio State in a Rose Bowl matchup. That is awesome.
That is fire. That is okay. You know, if
That
it's
is
going to
awesome.
happen, it's got to happen that way.
That is
Tennessee,
awesome.
here we go. Tennessee, Ohio State. So that game is going to be obviously at Ohio State. I do think Ohio State's got to be the clear favorite in that one. The only other confirmed matchup we have is that Clemson, Texas. Do we all agree that Texas should probably be the favorite in that game
Yeah.
if the line's not already out? Or do you
Yeah,
think-
yeah. I mean, yeah, they're going to be home. They're definitely going to be the favorite. I would tell you.
Indiana.
I mean-
Notre Dame.
Maybe not by as much
Dude,
as you
it's-
think it's going to be.
Indiana, SMU, Bama. Like those are the 3 teams left for 2 spots.
I'll tell you right now. There's 2 scenarios where they win with me here. If Indiana's out or Alabama's out, I'm fine with either.
You're cool. No, there's
Bro,
no way
if
you leave.
Bama makes
with
it over
one loss.
Indiana, I'd be upset.
Yeah.
I'd be beside myself.
That'd be
That's
crazy.
fine, but
One loss
I'm
for
less
3.
I'm less pissed about that though than I am if they get in over SMU. That's all I'm saying. Indiana's done nothing to be in this discussion. Nothing.
Justin, for you right now, with confirmed matchups here, who do you like to advance so far?
The confirmed matchups, I will take the home teams. Again, Ohio State, I think they'll bounce back after the Michigan thing. I know that, Ryan Day and, James Franklin are kind of in the same discussions about big games sometimes. Oh, there you go, Bill.
What happened?
Indiana and Notre Dame are
Indiana.
matched up now, so they put Indiana
Ooh.
at 10.
I actually
That's
like
crazy,
that. I
dude.
actually like that matchup. Notre Dame
Crazy.
defense, Indiana has
Bro,
a decent
and-
offense. I like that matchup.
And it being
that same
it
state.
being in the same state, those
Yeah.
Hoosier fans
That's
are
gonna be
going to
I know.
travel.
That's going to be a wild game. I can't
Oh
wait for
my
that one.
god, that just
Does anyone know how far away those schools are?
They're not that far.
Bloomington from
That's going to be great.
Hour and a half, 2
South Bend.
hours.
That is pretty sweet.
That's going to be great.
But hey, now we're looking for that last spot. All right, that
Georgia
very last
basically
spot.
gets a bye though. I mean, Notre Dame or
Yeah.
Indiana.
Yeah.
I hate the committee. I hate the committee.
But that's the thing, though. Georgia has played like crap, right? We don't know if
They can
Carson
play like
Beck
crap against
is
Notre
gonna be-
Dame and
We
Indiana.
don't know if we don't know if Carson Beck is going to play. We don't know if that quarterback came. I can't remember his name right now. He looked good against Texas. It looks decent against Texas, being thrown in the fire like that. So a couple weeks of preparation. Who knows what that team looks like with him? So I think there's a lot of question marks
There you
in
go.
that game. I don't think Georgia
He
necessarily.
wins.
graphic they're showing
He
is
wins.
Yes.
Missouri and LSU.
Yes.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yes. That
Well, this is a
graphic is
PG
setting
show.
up. That graphic is setting up the inevitable because
It's
they
going to
did
be
not talk about the
SMU.
losses at all.
SMU, baby.
I really hope so.
They're setting it up. I hope it is too, but they're setting it up.
Well, shoot, Cottrell, go check the odds. Have they posted the odds for who Penn State's playing yet?
True. They probably have them.
Don't actually check. I want to be surprised.
I
But
bet
if
you-
it's
I mean,
Alabama,
if it's up on FanDuel, I mean, it'll tell you. I mean, they always get stuff early.
That was
That's
the
true.
only when I looked earlier. That Tennessee Ohio State was the only game that was on there.
that's probably the only one they felt like confident about. But I don't know, man. Like I said, I think Alabama versus Penn State is a banger of a matchup. I think SMU versus Penn State is a banger of a matchup. So, like as a college football fan, there's no wrong choice. But as an analyst, there is a wrong choice. Yes, SMU got in. SMU's in. SMU
Nah,
is
let's
in. Alabama
go.
is out. SMU is in. Bama is out. That is it. I'm so glad I made this SMU slide because I was worried we weren't going to get to use it. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen.
SMU Penn State is by
Fire.
far the best first round matchup.
I think
far.
Clemson, Texas, then
Indiana,
SMU,
Notre Dame is going to be a banger.
Indiana Notre Dame's fun because of like geography, like, and that will be like that'll be interesting. I'm telling you, you're not going to see a lot of Indiana fans in that stadium. You're not. But
they're going to travel,
bro. Notre Dame fans aren't going to sell their tickets to Indiana fans. But
that.
I'm telling you, you'll have a couple pockets that will be Notre Dame fans are not going to pass up hosting their first ever playoff game and just sell out to Indiana. But that game is fun, obviously, because of geographic rivalry.
Yep.
If you're telling me intriguing on the field play, SMU Penn State to me as a gut reaction is the best game in the first round. Clemson, Texas, I think has the ability to be good because if Clemson plays like they played last night, and I've been on the same kind of boat as Cottrell, I think Texas is overrated. I do. I think there's wiggle room there. I think Ohio State is decidedly better than Tennessee. That is probably the most confident game that I'm in the first round. I think Ohio State is definitely a step better than Tennessee is, and especially playing at home in the Horseshoe with the weather. I think they'll be the biggest favorite out of the four.
Yeah, my heart's still racing because I felt like SMU was one of my children here, and I was waiting to see if they got the monthly award or not, and they did. They're in. All right, SMU has been they've been probably my third favorite team this season. I have not been shy about who I've been cheering for this year. It's Oregon, Kansas State, SMU, Ole Miss. Obviously, two of those teams did not have the season I thought they would. Man, I'm just happy that SMU was able to kind of pull it out, make it through. They fought back yesterday hard. They looked bad in the first half, came back bad in the second half. They truly deserve the chance to be in the college football playoff. And honestly, it's nice to see a school step up from the AAC to a Big Four conference and be able to make the college football playoff. I think that speaks huge volumes about the direction college football is going. Oh, let me see.
Well, I take everything back. Bad, I said. I guess they did the right thing. Just don't know how Indiana got in, but I'll just stop beating that dead horse, I guess, for a while. Hopefully they show up against Notre Dame. If they get smoked by Notre Dame, I'm gonna get back on my soapbox again. But overall, I think we all agree they got it right. I would think as a show consensus here.
I think they got the 12 based on criteria. I think they got the 12 best teams in the country.
I agree, and I think this year you could argue that it's, outside Indiana, most deserving, but I guess you really can't argue.
No, you can't say
Alabama. I know, I get it. I just said it. Relax. I got it. I'll live with Indiana for now. I'll root for them because I hate Notre Dame, and it's a Big Ten school. So I hope they show up and win. I just don't think it's going to happen.
So initial reactions to the bracket. Obviously, are we all picking Ohio State over Tennessee? I mean,
again, out of the four matchups, that's the easiest one for me.
And then the SMU Penn State, obviously SMU going all the way up to cold weather Penn State, one of the hardest places to play in the country. Obviously, we saw what Penn State looked like last night. A team that battles, who's never truly out of a game, and has two amazing running backs. Do you think? I'm obviously going to be cheering for SMU, but realistically, do you think SMU has a shot to beat that Penn State team?
I need to see the game time of that game first, and because there is 2 night slots. With there really not being a West Coast game here, it's going to be interesting to see who gets them.
That's true.
If one of them is not Ohio State, Tennessee, then I riot.
I would tell you,
here's
what I'll tell you. Yeah, you see, this is where it gets interesting because Penn State, I think, would gladly want to play at night. I don't think anybody wants to play at noon. Somebody's going to have to play at noon.
Get that Notre Dame Indiana game at noon.
Now listen. That geographically, that could make sense. That could be the noon game. The problem is they are an hour behind, so you're asking them to kick at 11. I don't know if they do that. That's where it gets a little worrisome for Ohio State, Tennessee, because Texas Clemson is definitely not going to kick at noon. So,
no.
that is going to be the middle game, I would assume. And then you're 2 out of 3 spots are night games, and then somebody's got to play at noon. So that'll be very interesting to see. I would assume that's going to come out probably in the next couple minutes. It'll be curious to see who gets shafted there. It really would. It could be Ohio State. It could be Penn State too. They could say, hey, we're not, you already have a home game. We're not giving you a whiteout at night and make them kick at noon. So, but that being said, I mean, that would push both the other 2 games to night games. And then somebody's got to play Saturday because there's 1 game Saturday or 1 game Friday, 3 games Saturday. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Like I said, if that comes out in the next couple of minutes while we're still on, we can talk about it. I don't know if it's going to.
Justin, what do you think, man? What do you think the best matchup of the first round is? Obviously, you got the Tennessee, Ohio State, SMU, Penn State. Was that Clemson? But Clemson's facing, I forgot who they were playing.
Texas.
Clemson, Texas, or Indiana, Notre Dame. Which one do you think you're most excited to watch?
I think I'm most excited. I kind of like the fact that Indiana and Notre Dame. Oh, there we go.
Thank you, Cottrell.
Yeah, thank you.
Quick editing. Good job.
Yeah, that's impressive. Of the first, I think I would be most excited for it. I like Indiana, Notre Dame just because of the geography. I mean, frankly, I think that'll be interesting to see. 2 in-state, I mean, not necessarily rivals, I guess, but in-state teams go head-to-head against each other. And, of course, I mentioned the SEC narrative a little while ago. Then there's the inherent Notre Dame narrative that we get every year also. Obviously we'll be rooting for Indiana there. And then I truthfully think the SMU Penn State, I am really curious to see Penn State again, I mean, all the games are going to be big now, obviously, win or go home, but, Penn State in another big game, obviously being at home. But I kind of want to see how this SMU team does in a potentially in a hostile environment that they'll be in.
So real quick, the lines just got posted for all 4 games.
Oh, sweet. Let's take a look.
So funny thing is
two
of them have moved already, which is
I like that. Hold on, Bill. Hold on. Let's guess. Let's guess what these lines are. I like that actually. I'm going to say Clemson, Texas.
Hold on. Time.
Okay.
So now I came on here hoping they're all listed as December 21st at noon so far. So they don't have the game times yet either. Okay. But if this is any indication of anything, the SMU Penn State game is listed first. So that could, that would make sense conceivably if that's the Friday night game.
That'd be a night game for Penn State.
But we'll start there. SMU Penn State, what do you think it is?
I think Penn State's got to be double-digit favorites. Unfortunately, I don't think it should be, but I think Penn State's probably 10.5-point favorites.
No, that's where I was thinking.
10.5. Justin?
I was going to go 6.5.
Justin's the closest. When I opened this, it was 8.5. It's been bet down to 7.5 already. It's already changed.
Okay, so pound Penn State. No, I'm just kidding. Oh no, that is interesting. That is interesting.
Next game. And again, if these are listed in order, this is good news for you, Cottrell, because next game listed is Indiana, Notre Dame, which again would make sense if they start the Saturday slate at noon. So what do you think that spread is?
Notre Dame 5 in that 4. I'll go 4.5.
4.5. Alex.
See, I think that don't think I have any respect for Indiana, kind of like Bill doesn't, and I think Notre Dame is probably 8.5-point favorites.
Justin.
I was also going to say I'm not sure they respect Indiana, and I was thinking 9.5, so I'll take Notre Dame minus 9.5.
Alex will win this one's minus 7.5.
Yeah, full touchdown doesn't surprise me. I bet that gets bet up as well. I bet by next Saturday we're talking. I bet it's probably 8.5, 9.5 by that point.
Next game is Clemson versus Texas, which again would make sense if they're the 4:00 game on Saturday. What do you think the spread is here?
Honestly, I feel like they disrespect the hell out of Clemson. I'm gonna go with Texas minus like 13.5.
All right.
That'd be wild. I would have to honestly. I will say Texas definitely is the favorite, but I think it's going to be a little less. The way Texas offense has looked, I think it's going to be like a 4.5 point spread, which is disrespectful to Texas, but I think that's what it is.
Justin.
The crazy thing about these two teams is I'm not really sure which two teams you're going to get when they actually play each other. I'm going to maybe I'll Price is Right rule this. I'm going to split kind of the two in the middle here, and I'm going to say Texas will open as a 7.5 point favorite.
Texas is minus 11.5.
Dang, Cottrell, you were almost like right on. That is crazy. And you know, we got Gene in the chat. He's thinking minus 8.5 for Texas, so he's up there as well. I mean, when you look at this game, Texas should handle business, but just like Justin said, Clemson in the first half yesterday looked like a world beater contender. Clemson second half looked like Clemson we've seen all season, kind of really shaky. So
both teams are Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
Teams are Jekyll and Hyde. Again, from half to half, you have no idea what you're going to get from either team. And last but certainly not least, Tennessee, Ohio State, which again, if they're listed in the order that they're being played, this means Tennessee, Ohio State would be at night on Saturday night.
Game in the shoe.
Night game in the show.
Actually, let me see what ticket prices look like in that game.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I was thinking the same exact thing. If Oregon had lost and we're going to host the game, I was going to check. I bet prices were like $1,000 for standing room only. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, the Ohio State tickets were expensive enough.
Dude, some guy tried to sell me 2 tickets for $2,400 for that game. I was like, no, thank you. No, I'll watch it at home on TV.
Yeah, no joke.
What was it? Control, you already mentioned what the line was for this.
It was 7.5. It was 7.5 when I looked this morning.
It's down to 6.5.
Wow.
It's been bad.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, we talked about Jekyll and Hyde, and I'm not going to sit here and say Ohio State's going to lose because I definitely think they're going to win, and I would tend to err on the side of they'll win and it'll be more comfortable than not. But again, the same narrative that you can paint with some of these other teams too. If Tennessee's on, they're pretty good. You know, I love when Miko's on, and of course they have Samson. Running the ball, and so that offense can be pretty stout. But yeah, I can kind of see the touchdown favorite there, especially again in the shoe. Good teams, these top teams will usually bounce back from bad losses, and so hopefully that Michigan game has that bad taste, and of course they have all sorts of time to prepare for that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you get the opportunity for not true full redemption, but that was going to be a lot of those seniors' last game on that home field, depending on how these rankings broke. And so I think you get a chance to rewrite that narrative. Now, nothing will take back from the fact that, that senior class is 0-4 versus Michigan, or just the fact that they lost, their last game, last regular season game at home against Michigan on senior day. But this can kind of salvage that. At least you can have like your lasting impression on your home field be, hey, we took care of business against a good Tennessee team and, moved on to face Oregon, who had been, your first loss of the season. Or you get another chance to avenge that. Essentially, you get to go on a little revenge tour here. You can, rewrite the taste with the bad taste from the home loss. Then you get to face somebody that you've already lost to this season. So, I mean, I think if this doesn't give you motivation and if this doesn't get you going, then I mean, absolutely nothing will there. So I kind of like it. I like having the home game there. I told you guys in the group chat, I didn't want to be sitting on the 8 line just because, I wanted it to be Ohio State versus Oregon at the latest time in the season as possible. For me, I'll go out on the record and say it. I think there's 3 teams this year that can win the national championship, and I've been saying this for the last month and a half. I think it's Oregon, I think it's Penn State, and I think it's Ohio State. It sounds like I'm being biased towards the Big Ten there. I hadn't loved what I was seeing from Georgia. Like with that Texas team, I thought that they had the talent to do so, but they've just shown me in those big games like there, I don't think that, they're going to be able to get that done there. So for me, those are 3 teams, and, wouldn't have wanted to see Oregon in round 2, but to be a champion, you got to beat somebody. So I mean, if that's the way the cookie crumbles, then I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, it's definitely rough to see that heavy of a matchup in the quarterfinals. But then again, this is the college football playoff. All 12 of these teams are going to be a fantastic, tough matchups. I think Penn State, out of the 3 teams you just listed, I think Penn State has not an easy route, but they have definitely the easiest route to that semifinal, going up against SMU, and then Boise State is a team that has a very talented running back in Ashton Jeanty. But Penn State essentially should be able to kind of control that line of scrimmage offensively and defensively. And I think Penn State has the best path to the semifinal. Obviously, with Ohio State and Oregon on a collision course, that's going to obviously spoil one of us. But I'm thinking at least obviously 2 teams from the Big Ten are going to make it to that semifinal, and I think that's great for our conference and changing that narrative that SEC is the tell all be all.
And just real quick, just throwing an extra point just on top of that there. I think with Penn State, you talk about their path. Obviously, I mean, SMU, of the teams that were there, SMU is one of the teams that I'd want to play, as a Penn State fan.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get Boise in the next round. Depending on what happens in the game underneath you and, ultimately what the situation is there with Carson Beck, you may even be looking at a semifinal that doesn't include Georgia. So imagine not having to face, Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, or Texas to get all the way to the national championship. So, I think that'd be pretty cool. Oh,
dates and times are out. Justin, your dad's in the chat. He's saying dates and times are out. We got to find these before we wrap this show up so we can know what's going on. That would be cool if
they're up on ESPN right now. So
sweet. What do we got?
Boise State. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong column. The Friday game is the one in South Bend, so the Battle of Indiana.
That's on Friday.
And that's a
Friday night game.
It's Friday night game.
That's a Friday night game. That's
oh, Control's gonna be pissed this thing. I'm shocked.
No, you're muted. No, you're muted.
Who's muted?
Justin, you're muted. There we go.
I don't know what happened. No, Ohio State has the Saturday night game. They're at 8 Eastern.
Let's go.
Well, I was using ESPN's here, but they took it down. So let me see if
Gene said in the chat that Penn State had the noon game, which would put Clemson, Texas at the mid game.
Clemson, Texas at the middle of the day was kind of a no-brainer. It was just a matter of how they were going to kind of float the other 3. I'm shocked they gave Notre Dame a Friday night game.
That is interesting. But hey, it is what it is.
Why wouldn't they give that to Georgia? Not Georgia. Why wouldn't they give that to Penn State? I don't know if I understand that one.
I don't know, but that's going to be a good one. What is that? The first game is not this upcoming Friday, obviously, but the Friday before Christmas, so the 20th?
The 20th. Yeah, the 20th.
20th and the 21st. And then the second rounds are the next weekend, and it's every weekend from then on?
It doesn't stop after that, correct.
Okay. Is there a week between the championship and the semifinals or no?
Nope. Playing through.
Awesome. That's great. This is
they gotta be done.
by really.
They get like 10 days because the championship games are
always
Monday.
on Monday. Yeah.
Okay.
They'll
there's
go
there's no extended like prep
no,
time.
they get the 10 days.
They got to be done before the Super Bowl. So
hey, this honestly with it being back to back to back like that, especially after just playing in a conference championship game, having that first round bye is a blessing. I can tell you that. Arizona State, Oregon, Georgia, Boise State are all very thankful for this extra week off. I bet Texas is probably going to be, Texas I think is going to look a little sluggish coming out against Clemson is my initial opinion after what they look like against Georgia. I'm thinking at least 2 upsets in that first round. I don't know who it is, but my gut's telling me two of the underranked teams are going to come out of that first round.
Well, damn it, I'm telling you one of them right now, and that's going to be Indiana.
Really?
I got the Hoosiers moving on to the second round. All right, I've been telling you guys all year, Notre Dame's a team full of frauds, and I think Indiana, Kurt Cignetti and company, they're gonna walk into South Bend and let you know exactly that.
Indiana's going to get bulldozed in South Bend. I'm telling you that right now.
I can't wait for that Saturday show.
I hate Notre Dame. They're going to take those 2 backs and they're going to run the ball down Indiana's throat. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of interesting.
Notre Dame ain't Western Carolina, bro.
Justin, what are you saying?
Oh, I was going to say I'm looking at the times now. They actually already have times set for the semifinal
Quarterfinals?
rounds also, or the quarterfinals. Yeah,
When
Well,
we
that's
get
a
Oregon,
surprise.
Ohio State.
I said
I'm
that's
on
gonna be 5 o'clock like it always is.
That'll be
I'm
the
on
night
s-
game.
I'm on Sporting News right now, and the latest game will be the Georgia game,
What?
and that's at 8:45 Eastern, and
Ooh.
the Oregon game is right now slated for 5 p.m. Eastern. So,
Yeah,
Which
that's-
makes
that's-
sense, yeah.
That's a traditional
Exactly.
Rose Bowl kick, so it's
That's
always
true.
5 o'clock. So,
but the Christmas Eve game, which would be on Tuesday, the 31st, says 7:30 p.m. Eastern
there's a
time.
game on New
And
Year's
that's
Eve?
Boise State. That's what it says.
yeah,
Yeah. New Year's 6. Come on now.
I know that. I know. I just figured with that they were. I don't know what I thought. That is.
I guess that's a little over a week. So yeah, a week and a half between rounds. But yeah, Boise State will be slated for the first of
Freaking
those.
weird because those games are on Tuesday this year, like Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be rough.
Yeah, that is weird. And the fact two of the first round games that we just talked about are on TNT.
Yeah, they signed that new deal this
That's kind
past
of
year. So you're going to be getting like Shaq, Ernie, Charles
Hey, I'm-
Barkley talking
I-
about college football.
inside the
Put the whole
NCAA.
crew. Inside, yes, dude. Honestly, I love watching. The only time I really watch NBA is if TNT has the game because of that. So I'm actually totally okay with TNT having some games because they always have the best commentators. Like it's always entertaining. So I'm down with it.
Yeah.
I mean, anything else we kind of want to throw out there before we kind of wrap this episode up today? I mean,
and yeah. What's everybody's final thoughts here?
yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, Oregon locked up the number 1 seed. I'm so thankful SMU got in. I'm sure. I would love to see what Alabama's reactions are right now. I'm probably gonna go YouTube and see what kind of reactions the Alabama team got. But SMU's in. I'm happy. Oregon's in. I'm happy. 2 of the 4 teams I picked to be in it are happy. I'm happy. And next weekend, I'm excited to see what our initial picks were at the beginning of the season to compare and contrast to see who had the most right picks. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. No Bama, I'm good.
I'm happy with it. I will say I think one, it's going to be cool to like see teams like Boise State who hadn't had a chance to be in the playoff before. Indiana, obviously, this is their first time. SMU, first time as well. So it's cool to see that. I do ultimately just looking at it and seeing how these things can potentially play out. I think you're ultimately going to end up with 2 SEC schools and 2 Big Ten schools in the semifinals. And then you're going to have, obviously some sort of combination of that national championship game. So I think when it's all said and done, people are going to look back and say, well, hey, it's still the Big Ten, the SEC, like those are still the most dominant conferences, things like that. But I think about how we get to that point matters. And so I think I want Penn State to win that game against SMU. But like if SMU wins it, like I think that is a good thing for college football. Same thing with, Indiana, Notre Dame. Like if you can win a game and move forward there for, people that didn't believe in you or said that, hey, these games should be played on paper and we just look at spreads and things like that. I think this is good to really get away from that so that way moving forward, we kind of know, hey, these are teams. Let's just go by what they've done so far and not what conference they're in or, who they play that's in the top 25. The committee gets to determine anyway. Like, let's use common sense here to weed out who's played good football teams and who's played bad ones.
I guess a quick question I would say between Arizona State and Boise, who do you think has the best chance to go to the semis?
Boise.
Boise.
I've seen Boise State, and I've seen them up close firsthand. And that Boise State game was the only game this season, even including the Ohio State game, where I was truly worried about how close the score was. I don't know if Justin, if you can agree with me, but Boise State just felt different. I don't know what it was. Like it's like we knew what they were going to do, and they were still able to do it successfully, and that's terrifying. But that's
yeah, it gave me kind of watching that game. It kind of reminded me of the game several years ago when Oregon played Stanford, and they gave it to Christian McCaffrey like 47 times during the game, and it's like, hey, I wonder what they're going to do, and they just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. I mean, I probably would, I suppose, err on the side of Boise State. The one thing about Boise State is I don't have a lot of confidence in Mark Madsen.
Facts.
Like, I mean, the eye test on Mark Madsen, he can get it done, but Arizona State is playing really well. I mean, obviously they blew out Iowa State yesterday.
Blew the doors off.
And I really like Kenny Dillingham. I think he's doing a great job. Again, you mentioned it earlier, Alex, kind of the post Herm Edwards fiasco and doing a great job. So just to be a little bit different, and the fact that I don't really trust the quarterback play of Boise State, and the fact that Clemson and Texas can be kind of Jekyll and Hyde, I will be different, and I will give a slight edge to Arizona State.
Cottrell, what do you think?
I lean Boise State only because of, I think if they get into like kind of, I don't want to say track meet, but they get into that kind of game with a Penn State or even potentially an SMU, and they're able to just, it's going to be a battle of who runs the ball more effectively. Because, I think that's the game Penn State wants you to play. I think Oregon was stylistically a bad matchup for them because of what they can do on the outside. But Penn State wants you to try and run the ball between the tackles. And on the other side, Penn State wants to run the ball through the tackles. Like that's, their brand of football there. So, I think Boise could potentially come out on top in a situation like that. What worries me about the Arizona State team up top there is that I do think Texas moves on. And I think if they get down and they have to get away from Scatterboo, then I think, you leave the ball in Sam Leavitt's hands there. And I think that can be issues, for you in the passing game there. So I roll with Boise there, but it's just a slight lean, and I just think it's because of the type of matchup that I think they would see in the second round there.
Well, Bill, you asked the question. What do you think? Who do you give the edge to?
I think it's Boise too, just because, again, I think styles make fights. And I think no matter who comes out of that Penn State SMU game, I think Boise, kind of like you said, I think Boise at least feels like they can be effective in doing what they're doing to keep them in that game. Arizona State, to Cottrell's point, I think is a very run heavy team with Scatterboo, and that kid is an absolute freaking horse. If you watched that game yesterday, looked like old like Toby Gerhart footage and stuff.
Dude, that's exactly who he reminded you of.
Kids running over people. But my problem with that becomes, like Cottrell said, I feel like if they do get behind the sticks a lot, they're not designed to throw the ball 40 times a game. They're not. And if they have to, I think that scares me a little bit with potentially playing, a Texas team with a pretty good secondary and a very good front seven. So I would say Boise State if I had to pick between the two, but like I said yesterday, Arizona State isn't kind of, even more so now. They're in that same boat as South Carolina. They are just playing. They're playing downhill. They're playing with a ton of confidence. They're the hottest team in the country right now. I did not think for any way in how they were going to beat Iowa State by 30 points yesterday. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, did I? I picked Iowa State.
Yeah, and that was a beating. So, yeah, they're playing with house money. I think that's the fun part for me, and it's kind of echo what all you guys have said. It's really going to be fun to see how these smaller teams come out and perform. Because if one of them throws in a dud, they'll be like, "See, Alabama should have been in," or whatever. But that's really not the point of it, And like I said, still one of the most exciting, prolific bowl games ever. Still is that Boise State Oklahoma game, and you just gotta give the little guys a shot. And I think this year they've all earned it. So like I said, Boise State's only loss is a 1-point loss on the road to the number one team in the country. So I'm just excited. I hate that we're off next week, but like football wise, we have Army Navy, but that's it. But it's going to be this next month or so is going to be a lot of fun. So
Justin, I wanted to make sure before you left that we get your take on it. We're going to talk about it next Saturday. So, but for you, as it stands right now, who is your Heisman Trophy award winner?
My Heisman Trophy winner, if I had a choice, I would give it to Ashton Jeanty. I get the whole, the Travis Hunter playing both sides. And I love Travis Hunter. Like from last year, I really wanted to get on the Colorado bandwagon. I really wanted the Deion Sanders. I really wanted all that hype, and it just didn't work out last year. What I've seen from him and the fact that, and again, how much ever stock you want to hold in the fact that Ashton Jeanty's numbers are crazy. And the fact that he hasn't had to play entire games just because of their schedule and everything, that's who I would lean. But I would say it's pretty close, but I would lean Jeanty. Fair
enough. Like I said, we'll discuss it more next week. Wanted to get your take on it because I'm sure you're going to be in the comments next week talking about it. But just want to see where you stood with it. That's all.
All right, gents. Well, thank you for jumping on. Justin, pleasure having you, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining. And again, hopefully we can, somewhere down the road in this playoff, I'm sure we can have you on again because there's plenty of football going to be discussed the next couple weeks. So as always, thank you. And that's it. Everybody go enjoy their Sundays.
NFL's on. Let's go watch that now.
NFL is on.
These stupid Browns, but you guys enjoy your Sunday.
Hey, the Niners aren't doing so great either, so I'm with you.
Well, neither are the Panthers. So
it's all bad.
Bill, who you root for, Bill?
He's an Eagles fan, so he's happy.
Okay, so he's fine. Okay.
He's fine.
All right.
Boys, have a good Sunday.
And see you next week.
You guys too. Thanks again,
See ya.
guys.